Hi then. I just wanted to have this conversation because online training is exhausting. I did an hour's webinar yesterday and I really needed to lie down, and the pork pie I had saved for my lunch for tomorrow or for today, I just had to eat it. I really did. I was just shattered. And why is it that I, an experienced trainer, should feel so tired after just doing an hour's work? I mean, to put into context, I have been a full-time trainer for 10 years. I I would be doing 3, sometimes 4 training courses a week, and they would be like 6-hour long courses, and that's fine. I'd finish a 6-hour course at the end of the day, and I'd feel good. I'd feel fine. You put the work in, you felt tired, but it was a nice normal tiredness. But the webinars that I've done have actually kind of left me quite drained. And I mean, training has been a part of my life forever. I mean, at the age of 14, I was training pond dipping courses for the Beds and Hunts Naturalist Trust. Now, I'm a qualified fencing coach. I was running beginners courses and leading beginners courses for my fencing club for about 4 years. And I was a vocal coach for a young theatre group. And in my managerial career, which was before I became a trainer, mentoring, coaching, training, big part of what I did. So I'm not a novice to this. I'm quite happy. I have in the past done 5 training courses a week for 4 or 5 weeks. I need a bit of a lie down at the end of that one, but this is not something that is normally exhausting for me. And I was kind of thinking, why is this? I've delivered a number of webinars now. Why is it that at the end of that webinar, I just feel so, much as I enjoy doing it? And I kind of thought that there's kind of 4 areas, 4 big areas for me, and I'd be very interested to hear what your take on this. But there are 4 areas for me in particular, I think, that are impacting this kind of tiredness. And I'm just going to go through those 4 things, and I'd love to know what you think about it. Number 1, sitting. Unless you have a camera operator and a huge studio setup, the majority of webinars at the moment are done like this. Looking into a webcam and just talking, and you're sat. And the thing is that we're not really designed to sit for long periods of times, nor should we sit for long periods of times. It's actually bad for us. But the problem being is, if I stand up, that's not really very good, is it? And if I'm trying to go, I'm moving around, and my virtual background will have an absolute fit. But we can't move around. And I mean, some of you who are watching this, particularly if you're watching on LinkedIn, may well know me. I've trained an awful lot of people, and a lot of those people are connections on LinkedIn. If you're watching this and you have done a training session for me, you know that stillness is not something that I do at all. I'm highly kinetic when I train. I don't mind sitting down for a little while, but I'm off. I'm over the place. I'm very demonstrative. I try to get in as much as as I can to people, to talk to them. And I think that's one of the things, is that movement is a way of releasing tension. So if you're sat focused in one place, your body does get a little bit, it's difficult. So if you sit for a couple of minutes and then you wander over to do a flip chart exercise, and then you reflect, you go to the slides, or you're running an exercise in a class, and you're kind of wandering around, kind of interacting with the people in the room, that releases tension. It allows you to change focus, whereas you're focused in one place, in one position, for an hour and a half, however long that webinar is going to be. And I think that is in and of itself exhausting. You don't become rigidly tense, but you've got a body that isn't moving in the way that it would normally move in that situation. And as you can see, I mean, even now I'm having trouble keeping my hands still. I've got to wave my arms around. So I think that's one of the first things that has impacted this for me, and why it is so tiring, is the fact that we are so still. We're locked into a single position and a single viewpoint. I can't look away. I can't make eye contact with the people around me, because there's either 100 of them and they're tiny little video screens. And if you make eye contact with the video screen, and by all means, please do check out the video that I did about maintaining eye contact on online meetings. I'll put a little card up that will pop down right now so you can have a little look at that one. But, you know, I can't make eye contact. I need to make eye contact there. I can't look at people. So that level of focus is really difficult. I think that is that stillness. You're locked in a position. That in and of itself is quite tiring. So that's kind of point one. Point two is the lack of your ability to control your environment. When I go to training rooms or training spaces, I am obsessively early. I get to spaces because I want to understand the space so I can adapt to the space. So I'll go into a training room, for instance, and I love the U shape. I've always liked the U shape of tables because everyone can see everyone nice and easily. It encourages interaction. It's easier for people to kind of group up and do things. And if I want to, you know, get a little bit closer to the audience to emphasize a point or to change a perspective, I can just walk down the middle of the tables, and I'm that little bit closer, that little bit, you know, it's easier to do. Or, you know, if I'm on a stage, for instance, you know, I can move things around. Even if I'm delivering to like 100 people at a seminar, I've got some control. You know, I've got control on where I go on the stage, which parts of the stage I utilize, how I actually interact with different people around the place. Also, for me, always have to have a flip chart on. It's going to be the opposite on the right-hand side. I'm left-handed. So a flip chart over there is no good for me because I'm gonna, you know, it's gonna be uncomfortable. I have to have a flip chart here. So it's a very simple thing of taking the flip chart from that side and putting it over there. If I want to, I have some element of control over my environment and I'm able to make it comfortable or a comfortable space for me. However, once again, I am narrowly in this space and I am a slave to the platform that I'm working on. So whichever platform it is that I'm doing, I can't really move that around. It is what it is. You know, you can do your whiteboards, you can share your screens, but they're where the software dictates they are going to be. So there is a lack of control potentially there that you feel because you can't make things the way you want them to be. They have to be the way the platform dictates them to be. And I think, and again, that lack of control, that lack of your ability to kind of personalize your space is something that is going to add to some stress or some tension potentially. So it's certainly that I've found myself. Number three, this isn't the biggest one. Number four is the biggest one. I'm building up to the biggest one. The biggest one, one of the biggest ones for me is as a freelancer. You know, I work with a number of different organizations and I've done a little bit of remote coaching via Skype before doing this, but I had never done a webinar as such. I've done videos like this, so I'm quite comfortable talking to a camera and delivering this kind of thing, but I've never actually done a webinar before. And in the last 6 weeks, since lockdown started, I have had to deliver on 6 different webinar platforms because I can't go to an organization and dictate to them what system they're going to use. They've made a company-wide decision that we're going to be doing this, and I have to adapt. So I have delivered a seminar on Skype, on Zoom, on WebEx, which is awesome, on Livestorm, which was a new one to me, to Microsoft Teams. What was the other one? Oh yeah, OBS, where you live stream YouTube. And I've also, I've used this one before actually, but for other reasons, but XSplit, which is another one that helps you live stream things like YouTube and Facebook more effectively, share screens and that kind of stuff. But I've used 6 different, webinar software programs over the last 6 weeks. And although they are all relatively similar, all the time you're having to remember each different system. And again, it's there is an element of a lack of control, but also the necessity to adapt all the time to other people's needs, which is not a bad thing. And it's something, you know, I find quite challenging, but again, tiring. You know, they are all very similar, but it's the differences. So, you know, if you've done a couple on WebEx and then you go to Livestorm, where are the buttons? Where is everything? And suddenly you're having to readjust yourself. So I think that doesn't help, you know, from my perspective, in as much as I don't get to choose again the platform. If I was a training company and I delivered my own training all the time, which I do that on Zoom. If you'd like to join in, do check out the links. They'll be somewhere in the comments below. I could dictate that. I am doing this on Zoom, and therefore I become a Zoom expert. But I have no doubt over the ensuing months, I will get engagements with other organizations that will go, right, we're using this. You know, apparently Facebook is bringing out its own system to rival Zoom. Snapchat's doing one, I believe. So at some point, I'm sure I'm going to get another one thrown at me. So I think that is an element of it as well for me, is the fact that as tech savvy as I am, I'm a digital skills and digital marketing trainer. I'm very, very tech savvy and tech happy. But it is those little adjustments, those things that, you know, you've got used to this platform, and suddenly you've got a very similar platform that's just minutely different, which in many respects makes it more difficult, but it was completely different. So I think that's it. But I think the biggest thing for me, as a highly interactive trainer, is lack of interaction. Now, depending on what you're doing, now when I train, I rely on interaction. I like interaction. Even when I'm, you know, in front of 100 people doing a seminar, I interact. I ask for opinion. I do hands up. I try to involve and include people. It's part of what I do, and I think it's part of what, you know, any trainer attempts to do. The more engaged people are in what you're doing, the more likely they are to maintain focus and enjoy what's going on. And certainly in a smaller training environment, while I might be training, you know, 6, 8, 10, 12 people, you know, that interaction is very, very important. And when I've been doing training courses myself, you know, over Zoom, I've got a small number of people there. I can see their videos and we've got some interaction. However, there is a limit to that, which I'll come to. But the hardest thing for me has been the bigger seminars that I've done. So I've been fortunate enough to do a couple for the Lloyds Bank Academy, and yesterday I did a seminar for Upskill Digital, and you have a large number of people and you don't see them at all. You know they're there, or you hope they're there anyway, but you can't see them. You can't see 100 people. You don't have that level of interaction. You can create interaction through Q&As and through chats, and through, you know, raising of hands. I mean, there's some fabulous interactive elements to these seminars, but there's a delay, and you don't get any immediate feedback. Now, when I'm in front of a group of people and I say something, and I go for a fact, or I tell one of my randomly bad jokes, I immediately get the feedback on whether people have understood that. You know, you can tell through body language, you can tell through the questions they ask, you can tell through all sorts of things, the level of engagement. It's one of the things you have to do as a trainer. You know, you're out going, right, I think that person is getting it, but this person seems to be struggling. So you circle back and you can focus on that person and see if there's a way of drawing them back in. You don't get that. I am basically talking to myself for an hour with a little bit of text interaction on the side. And that makes it very difficult because you've got no idea how people are receiving what you're doing. You have to trust absolutely in your ability to communicate with people directly. You know, you've got to understand how this works to make sure that you are looking at that little camera and that you're not distracted like I'm doing at the moment, and you're looking in the corner of a screen doing something whilst you're talking, because that lack of eye contact is going to disengage with people. So again, that's that element of focus, which was the first point that I had, that you are laser focused on a tiny little dot on the top of your laptop. You are not interacting with people. And even when you've got those interactions, you know, when you can see people, say these Zoom training courses that I've done have been done with small numbers of people, and I see all of the videos, but there is this thing called lag that happens. So I will say something and I'll be waiting for an interaction, and if the internet connection is a little bit slow, that reaction comes a second and a half, but actually late, and it breaks that flow. It breaks the interaction, and although you can see them, it slows things down. You can lose energy if you're not careful. And that, again, that level of focus, that level of concentration, that absolute inside belief that you are connecting with people, I can see it face to face, but if all I'm doing is looking at a tiny dot on a laptop, that is really, I think that for me, as someone who thrives on feedback, who's someone who wants that in courses, it makes it a slightly lonely experience. You know, and a couple of the webinars I've done, I have been speaking to more people than I've ever spoken to in my career. You know, I'm quite used to speaking to groups of people and often speak to, you know, 50 to 100 people, but one of those webinars I believe had more than that on it. It's the largest group of people I've ever spoken to, and I could not see one of them. Couldn't see any of them. So despite the fact that I was talking to 100 odd people, there was no feeling that I was talking to them. I was essentially for an hour talking to myself and trusting in my own ability, in people's internet connections, in the slides working, in the fabulous moderators that have been working on the chat side whilst I've been doing these things, that we were getting that interaction and those people were engaged. But they could well have been on the phone. They could have popped off for a wee halfway through, and you've got no clue and idea. And I think that adds an awful lot of pressure. And you overcompensate in many respects for your delivery to try and make it that, in this tiny little box that we're in right here, just make it that little bit more engaging. And for me, those four elements combined make online training so much more exhausting than standing up in front of people for 6 hours. I like doing the online training. I enjoy it. It is challenging and it is fun, but it lacks that little thing that makes training special for me, which is the direct interaction with people. That's why we do it. Training is, it's a performance, it's an interaction, and without that interaction, it becomes very difficult. So I don't know if anybody else out there has had brand new experiences with delivering over the internet. People who are non-trainers who are doing this for the first time and finding it difficult. This is something that with practice will improve. I would imagine as we go through this crisis that we're in, and more of this training is going to be done, and more of these kind of things are going to be done over webinars, and the more that I do, I will find them less exhausting because I'll be just that much more savvy, and I'm not having to think quite so much about all the different screens to click on and managing the software and managing the chat and all that kind of a thing. But right now, these are the challenges that I'm facing as a trainer, and why I probably wouldn't want to do 3 or 4 hours worth of webinar training. If you want me to do 3 or 4 hours worth of webinar training, please employ me to do so. I will be brilliant. But that is not something I would necessarily want to do every single day. Whereas I would be perfectly happy to do 4, 6, 8 hours of face-to-face training, not right now, obviously, social distancing, without even thinking about it. So I would love to know your thoughts on this, and please do add them to the comments. It's been a challenge. It has been fun. I like challenges. I like change. I'm finding all of this absolutely fascinating and having a wonderful time. But I do get a little bit sleepy at the end. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please do give this a thumbs up or a like or a heart, wherever you see it. If it's on Facebook or LinkedIn, the emoticons, the hearts and the smiles and the claps, do give it a bit more of presence on those platforms and just going thumbs up. So, if you can, that's fine. If you want to share it with other people, that would be lovely. If you're on YouTube, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want more of this type of content. If you're on Twitter, give me a retweet. But otherwise, thank you very much. I hope it's been informative. I look forward to your comments on this and your own personal experiences. But above all, stay well, keep safe, have a fantastic day. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye for now.